Just what was covered in committee, basically, is my...
Okay, so students can now remain here if they get deferred action for childhood arrivals. So if they're going to remain here, they're not going to be deported. Do you think that a student would be more likely to receive benefits with or without a college degree?
Well, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't get a college degree.
And so
my thought is that they just don't receive the in-state tuition.
And why not?
Because of the lawful status.
You mentioned that the federal government says that it's unconstitutional. Why do you say that?
Because the testimony the Secretary of State Kobach presented that day, and I can't recall from memory the statute that said that basically the federal law says that if you do grant undocumented workers the in-state tuition rate, you have to grant that to every person in the United States.
You said grant. The law says make eligible. And so there's a difference between like giving it to someone and making someone eligible to receive it. Is that correct? There's a difference between those two things. And so the law says you must make eligible students and citizens to be able to receive the same in-state tuition rate. So if a student, a U.S. citizen, say from Missouri, that goes to school in Kansas, say at a Bishop Ward or Bishop Gage, that student would be able to pay in-state tuition in college in Kansas because they graduated from the Kansas high school and went there for 3 years. So you don't have to grant it to everyone across the 50 states. You just have to make eligible U.S. citizens to receive in-state tuition under the law. So the federal law says if you do this, you can allow this. If you give in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants, you must also make eligible U.S. citizens for the same benefit. And are you aware that Chris Kobach brought lawsuits challenging the constitutionality of the in-state tuition law in Kansas and in California?
I know that he's brought a whole series of lawsuits. I wasn't sure specifically.
Well, he did. He brought lawsuits against the California in-state tuition law and Kansas. And do you know if they were successful or not successful? They were unsuccessful.
Are you done with this?
I am, thank you. Because they said that it does not violate federal law. It's not preempted by federal law. I know Kobach failed to mention it when he gave testimony, but it's true. He failed on his lawsuits against in-state tuition. So why do you keep on saying that it's not constitutional?
I just believe that we are rewarding the act of violating the law.
Do you think that you must give to students from all 50 states in-state tuition in Kansas if this law remains constitutional in Kansas? Do you really believe that?
That was my understanding from the hearing that day.
Okay. Did you know that was ruled wrong by the California Supreme Court and the Kansas courts?
I did not.
Okay. And so again, do you think a student that now has the right to remain here in Kansas, if they get a college degree means more income, which means more paying into taxes?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. But that doesn't mean that they have to receive the in-state tuition rate.
Well, such a student wouldn't be able to be eligible for financial aid, wouldn't be able to go to school. So many students are saying, I will have to drop out of college, or I won't be able to go to college if the in-state tuition rates are repealed.
But there's many students already that can't attend college. Many lawful immigration status students in the United States that can't afford to go to college.
Okay,
so it's not a immigration. I mean, an immigrant versus non-immigrant situation.
Well, absolutely it is. We're talking about kids who came, are in Kansas, are not going to be deported. So is it better to educate our youth or not?
It is better to educate them.
And to have a college degree, is it better for Kansas or not?
It is.
And to pay out-of-state tuition, are you aware that students won't be able to go to college?
I am saying that is rewarding unlawful behavior.
By the student? Yes. By the student who will remain here, who made no decisions to come to the United States? It should be penalized, that student?
That there are repercussions that a person faces, even that their parents make. I mean, we see that throughout society. And so, yes, it was not their choice to come to the country illegally, but the fact remains that they are here illegally.
So students who want to remain here, want to work in Kansas, want to be engineers and nurses, do you think we have a need for that here in Kansas? Bilingual nurses, many students want to become. Do you think that?
I think there is a need for that, sure.
And so why deny it? Why
I'm
allow?
not denying it.
Absolutely, you would.
No,
By repealing in-state tuition rates, you are technically
the rate that the tuition rates that are currently in place are so high that they prohibit some lawful students from, some lawful immigration status students from attending college. You have to set the rate at some point to attend college, and so your cost prohibiting some people from attending college, even though they would benefit from that at the end, because you have to have a baseline college tuition.
But that has nothing to do with the in-state rate. So students that are paying in-state are paying money to go to college in Kansas. The Board of Regents says we welcome the in-state tuition law because they're receiving money that they would not otherwise receive. It's not hurting taxpayers. How is it hurting taxpayers to allow students to pay to go to college in Kansas?
Because again, I'm saying that students from other states, if a student from Kentucky wants to attend a Kansas school,
they can move to Kansas and stay there for 1 year and establish residency. Is that correct?
They could. What if they wanted to transfer straight from high school?
And then that student could move to Kansas, live for 1 year in Kansas, and pay in-state rates, or can go to school in-state tuition in Kansas. There's a difference between the student in Kentucky and the student in Kansas. Only one of those students has paid taxes into Kansas most of their lives. Only one of those students will likely, given apples to apples, will remain in Kansas, will not be deported. So that student that grew up in Kentucky has not done anything in Kansas as far as paying taxes. Now, you have the power to change those rates that student from Kentucky can pay, but right now what we're talking about are students from Kansas who grew up in Kansas, who remain in Kansas, want to contribute their talents in Kansas, and can only do so if allowed to go to college. And to make going to college harder for that student, as you already said, having a degree is better than not having a degree. Having a degree usually means that it will be less likely to ever ask the government for any benefits.
When an undocumented student agrees to attend a Kansas college, they have to sign a document saying that they will seek to attain citizenship.
Absolutely, yes.
How successful is that?
It's been incredibly successful. You're going to hear from Nubia right now, who's been one. There was a student that went to Kansas State University. She graduated. She became an architect. She got married. In fact, I'm an immigration lawyer. I help people with their immigration status every single day. And many students now are eligible for deferred action. So students who once were undocumented are now legal residents and citizens all across the United States. There's story after story after story. So are you saying that the students that have graduated from college paying in-state tuition since 2004, that that's a bad thing? You haven't seen people being able to legalize? Because that's absolutely not true.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay. So what I'm telling you is that it has been very, very successful.
But what's the follow-up on that?
What's the follow-up on that? If a student signs the affidavit and doesn't attempt to legalize their status, there's absolutely repercussions that a student could have their in-state tuition benefits that once paid for university.
Is that ever done?
Well, I'm fine with if there's some sort of an enforcement of that provision. That's on you guys. Absolutely, you can investigate that. I don't know the answer.